Can I have your attention, please? Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing? Good. All right, so first of all, on behalf of all of us at the Center for Global Business, we welcome you to our fourth installment of our Distinguished Speaker Series. A very special welcome to our esteemed guests, Rocio, Rashida, and Jason, whom generously offered up their time to be here with us. And of course, you guys, our audience, thank you for joining us this evening. The Distinguished Speaker Series in International Business are a series of signature events that the Center for Global Business hosts throughout the year, and they offer very unique opportunities for students, both undergraduates and graduates, to learn more about the latest trends in international business from policy experts and business executives alike. The DSS, which stands for Distinguished Speaker Series, of course, meets this goal by bringing influential speakers, like our panel here, and they come here to share their experience and engage in meaningful dialogue with our audience. DSS are supported by the Center for International Business Education, short for CIBE, which is a Title VI grant from the U.S. Department of Education, which is to foster international understanding and promote the ability for the U.S. to compete globally, and in particular, in emerging markets. I would like to remind everybody of a few of our events that are coming this week and in the following months, so we would love to see all of you again. This Thursday, we will be hosting our Global Showcase competition, which features students that studied abroad during the winter 2019 break on faculty-led short-term programs. It's a competition. It's going to be across 1,400 and 1,500 atriums of Van Munching Hall. You'll see it. It's going to be great, so please join us for that. We are also thrilled to host Kelly Scholes on March 27th for another DSS installment. She is the recently appointed Secretary of Commerce for the state of Maryland. And then lastly, on April 9th, we have our annual forum with our guest E.M. Bremer, President of the Eurasia Group. So we look forward to seeing you all there. And without further delay, I'd like to introduce Rebecca Bellinger. She is the Executive Director for the Center for Global Business and our moderator for today's discussion. So thank you.
Mic on. Are your mics on? All right. So once again, thank you, Santiago, and welcome to everyone who is joining us here in Van Munching Hall. And a special welcome to everyone joining us via live stream. Yes, this is a live streamed event, so hopefully everyone out there who's joining us virtually will also be able to hear us with our mics on, right? The event will also be recorded and available via our website, probably as early as next week. So I'm delighted to be here with you all, and especially with our esteemed panelists, our alumni from the Smith School. So I'll move right into introducing them. So we are joined this evening with Jason Cisco. He is the head of Education Consulting Delivery for the Americas at SAP. He is also the founder of JTP4, a company that provides technical support for online learning platforms. And being an alumnus, I will mention his degree. He has a BS in Information Systems from the school. Next to him, we have Rocio Holub. Rocio is the Senior Manager for Global Operations at DAI Global. In her current role, she travels the world to establish business and promote sustainability in foreign markets. Sounds exciting. She has also served as a Peace Corps volunteer, as a small business development volunteer in Senegal. And as an alumna, she received a BS in International Business. And finally, Rashida Peterson. She's the CEO and founder of 1847 Philanthropic and new technology startup DIA Fund. The fund is a hybrid micro-philanthropy platform that connects members of the diaspora in the U.S. with vetted community-based organizations in their home country. She began her career at the U.S. Department of Commerce at the East Africa desk with the International Trade Administration. And as an alumna, she received a BS also in International Business with a citation in Spanish. So please join me once again in welcoming our panelists.
Thank you.
All right, we are here tonight to talk about global competencies for the 21st century workforce. Global mindset, global competencies are really at the core of what we do at the Center for Global Business here at the Smith School. So what I'd like to do now is take a couple of minutes to lay a foundation of what global mindset is to serve as a launching pad for our conversation. So global mindset, according to Financial Times and according to one of our very own faculty members here at the Smith School, Anil Gupta, is defined as one that combines openness to and awareness of diversity across markets and cultures, the ability to see commonalities across those different places and people, and, most importantly, the willingness to investigate and even adopt good practices from wherever they originate. Furthermore, at the center and at the Smith School, we have broken down this very complex idea of global mindset into 7 competencies: tolerance of ambiguity, passion for diversity, global business savvy, cultural curiosity, adaptability, relationship building, and my favorite, self-awareness and humility. We hope through tonight's event, through our conversation with our alumni, that we will come to a better understanding of global mindset, of these competencies, and how they are valued and relied upon in today's global workforce and in the workplace, regardless of what your major is now, your industry, or your function. We also hope to celebrate and recognize the achievements of our alumni and connect you, our students in the audience, with potential career paths. So we have a big task on hand, but let me turn it over to you all now. So you're on the panel because you are alumni of the school, our esteemed alumni, as we have said. So tell us your story. How did you first get interested in global affairs? What from your own backgrounds maybe prompted your exploration into global business? What is it that you do every day? What does your company do? And let's start at the end, Jason.
Sure, so I'll try and keep this as short as possible.
3 minutes.
Can go on forever. When I left the University of Maryland, I joined a small consulting firm in Columbia, Maryland. And what we did was we did learning and all sorts of work instructions for large software implementations, so Oracles and SAPs of the world. I became very quickly aligned with our SAP group. And because of that, I got to become an expert in one of the SAP modules. And through that, basically, I started to travel the world because of it. So I went, my first trip to Singapore was in 2002 because the Ministry of Defense was implementing the thing. They found my name in the list of all the experts, and they called my company and sent me over there to go out and help the Ministry of Defense for Singapore, which is only like one boat. It's not really huge, but it's still pretty awesome. And because of that, SAP decided, hey, this guy's an expert in our product, we should probably pick him up. And through that, I started to do a whole lot of international business, not only within certain things of my area of expertise, but beyond my area of expertise. So I became very quickly aligned with everybody in Germany, which was a huge issue for us because there was a lot of cultural changes going on in the company at the time. They were taking a aging workforce and having somebody come in and introduce diversity to them.
Okay.
And for them, that was a huge issue because they had to go through a lot of various stages of workforce, the Works Council, and other pieces as well. So it was a long journey to get there. After I did that for a while, I formed a company with a gentleman from Bulgaria. And the two of us worked for a very great number of years. Both internally inside of SAP and externally outside of SAP to do lots of different pieces of software, and I got to learn how to communicate with lots of different people in various locations. Now, I'm back at SAP. I have a team in Germany, I have a team in the United States, in Mexico, and I'm in charge of all the education consulting for the Americas, meaning North and South America. And that's what brought me back here.
Great. Good.
3 minutes or less.
That's great. Thank you.
All right. So hello, everyone. Rashida Holub. First of all, I was an immigrant. I am an immigrant. I was born in El Salvador, and my family moved here when I was 12. That started the curiosity really from the beginning. Then I had the great opportunity of becoming a University of Maryland student, like many of you, like all of you. I was exposed through 2 different study abroad trips, one in Argentina and one in Brazil, to really have an exposure outside of El Salvador and in the U.S. That just changed my world for me. At the time, I was very interested in microfinance, and having the opportunity to learn a little bit more about it in Argentina, again, changed my world. So I ended up signing up for the Peace Corps and became a microfinance volunteer. And again, that was just significant in my life, which led to working at various organizations in international development. And international development, if you guys are not as familiar with it, we work with a lot of donors, with a lot of governments and commercial clients who want to help or change something outside of the U.S. It could be in the field of governance, it could be in health, it could be infrastructure investment, in all sorts of things. So my current role right now is to be in charge of our entry into new markets. So from both the legal and the accounting and tax area, I guess, area. So I'm in charge of about 70 countries right now, and they keep on growing every day. So every day I have to figure out, well, what is the risk for my company going into a new country, and why should we do it? Why should we not do it? So.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting us. I think we're all super excited to be here. And thank everyone for their time. I'm Rashida Peterson. First of all, the Peace Corps is awesome, so kudos to you for Peace Corps. So great to be at the Smith School. I have been here about 20 years in this area, but I'm originally from the Virgin Islands. I'm from St. Croix. Being from a small island, I think that you tend to want to get out and like travel the world and be something and things like that. So I think that that's where the interest of doing international business was sparked. I majored in international business and Spanish here at the university. And after that, I was lucky enough to get an internship with the Department of Commerce. Once I graduated from Smith School in 2003, I started full-time with the Department of Commerce. So I had a really great transition. It was really easy for me, and full-time government employee, and so that was really, now it's not so great, but then it was awesome. Then it was awesome, and was able to get my security clearances and everything like that. So I think as a 20-year-old, I was able to probably have a lot more of a smoother transition. And I worked in the on the East Africa desk for about 5 years, and that included some projects overseas in Ghana. I was at the U.S. Embassy there, as well as a secondment to the African Development Bank in Tunisia, so I lived there for a little bit. When I came back, I started doing USAID contracting and was doing contracting for a few years. Went to a trade association focused on Africa. And at that point, I realized that I actually needed to, because I was getting further up in my career, I needed to actually bring in money instead of just spending money, which was a revelation that kind of hurt my feelings. But based on that, realizing that I had to actually be responsible for revenue generation, I started going into really full-time fundraising. And then from there, I started my own company, the consulting firm, which I co-founded with an individual from Kenya. And so we've been doing that for a while. We have mostly our offices in Nairobi. I'm the only one that's based here. And then we started a platform called DiaFund last year that we're piloting with the MasterCard Foundation. And it connects members of the diaspora here in the U.S. with vetted nonprofits in their home countries.
That's great. So lots of different points of origin, lots of stories, lots of different pathways to get to this career, this global kind of career. So there's a lot to draw from. When we get to Q&A, I hope that you guys will really consider what it is that the alumni here have to offer and ask some really pointed questions. No pressure. So Santiago in the introduction mentioned the SIBE grant that we won again in the fall. And the research theme of this grant is AI and digital trade. So I want to throw this question out to you because you do come from different industries. So do you and how do you use AI and other kinds of virtual technologies in your current positions? And if you could project 10 years down the road, how is it that AI and digital technologies are changing the way we're doing business today and in the future? Who wants to take that?
I can
Great.
you can go for it. So I'm very lucky to be in the workforce right now. It is a very interesting time. Things are changing very rapidly, and I work in operations, but every day IT is coming into my world, and ops and IT are becoming more and more interesting and more important because we are in the process of not only using AI, of course, but we're going through the pains of even before AI. I mean, I work for a small company in comparison to SAP, but looking at our data infrastructure. That's our main goal, I think, right now, figuring out what is our digital strategy. What does it mean? How do we augment the value for the company? Is it an NPV positive, net present value positive action that we're taking, or are we hurting the company? Or if so, in which areas? So we're really, I'm actually quite involved in that strategy, in the development of that strategy, and understanding how are we going to go in the future? How are we going to be better in the future? And how are we going to use AI or all the components of it, including machine learning, to be better and implement better projects abroad? If I could say that in 20 years maybe or 10 years, I think especially in the health industry, which is one of the industries we really work in, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how we can provide better services abroad to those who are not as well served as we are here. It's very fascinating. I cannot predict absolutely everything, but I think it's going to be really neat, and I'm really happy to be in the workforce right now for it.
That's great. That's great.
I would agree. It changes literally every day. And
Exactly.
It's always moving. It's always going somewhere. For us, AI, I can speak to what we do internally. We use it to communicate with each other. Because we have people in 150 different countries or 120 different countries. We have people who speak native languages that nobody else speaks. And for us to communicate with each other, we have to figure out the right way to do it. And we use a lot of our AI internal stuff to do a lot of the internal translation for us.
Interesting.
It's a constant change. It
really
just
is.
goes forever, yeah.
It really does, yeah.
So we use it, we actually built our platform, the DFund platform, to use it to do risk evaluations on local nonprofits. So our goal is actually to bring down the cost of doing due diligence. And in order to do that, we have an application process that people go in and they input their data. But the AI component is that it learns over time what an actual registration is in Uganda, like what that looks like, what those stamps look like. So it can automatically kick out ones that, are not like the others. And so for us, that has brought down our cost of due diligence from about $880 to about $350, because we use that before it even touches a person to evaluate like whether or not this organization even has the basic beginnings of being a nonprofit, and if it's registered, if its project budgets are similar to what it's putting in its M&E, all of that is done before we even look at it, and then the computer kind of spits out a ranking for it. And then we will go in and do the second due diligence. And we may do it locally. We've only started in Nigeria and Uganda, so for the time being, we have people locally. But our plan is, as we sort of roll on other countries, is to get consultants on the ground to take portions of it, to take certain portions of it, so it doesn't really affect our ranking, our final evaluation of whether or not an NGO is actually credible and viable and risky.
So of the students in the audience, how many of you are studying something related to AI, digital trade in any of your classes this semester?
Or analytics.
Analytics, exactly.
Yeah.
Has anyone mentioned any of these things before? Raise your hands. And you have your faculty
That's
member in the
awesome.
room watching. So
We're going to need you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd like to pick up on something that Jason mentioned related to language. So again, we have this Title VI SIBE grant, which comes out of the International and Foreign Language Education Division of the Department of Education. And part of the mission of this grant is to equip the next generation of business leaders with foreign language and business concepts or business skills for language and area studies type students. And yet we're hearing that we are operating in a world that, one, has translation technology, and two, that we all say that English is the language of business around the world. And yet, Rashida, you are a Spanish language learner. So could you tell us first how you use language in your job? How is it that you see knowing a foreign language as being something that is valuable to your career?
So I'll be honest. I think that learning a language is really great because it allows yourself to use a different part of your brain, and I think the learning aspect of it, especially if you are if you're an English speaker and you haven't learned another language at home, I think it does stretch you in ways that is important. My Spanish experience was interesting because I really had to go out of my way to learn the language. And I think that's partially just the way I learn, and then also, it's just very difficult to use the language constantly. And so, I did internships in Spanish. I worked for the Univision, Colorado. I did yoga in Spanish. Telenovelas, everything I could possibly get my hands on to continue to practice. I tried because I was like, I must conquer. But I find that it's very difficult to maintain in the US. It's very difficult to maintain my language skills, whereas my colleagues overseas know 3 or 4 languages. And so I think it's really great that the school is emphasizing this aspect of not just learning a foreign language, but also the culture piece of it, which I think is very important. I think I use the cultural awareness more than maybe I use Spanish now, just because I'm working mostly in sub-Saharan Africa. So the languages are mostly not Spanish, with the exception of Equatorial Guinea, which there I was rocking it, but everywhere else, the struggle is real. So, but I know, we had a discussion about culturally, being able to understand when you're having an American moment is even important.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes I'm like, okay, guys, I'm about to be American. I'm sorry, it's coming. And, I say that jokingly, but I think that Americans do have a certain way of approaching directness and volume and certain things that if you're not mindful of that, you can really miss, real opportunities in business. I mean, whether or not you're sitting across from someone and you're not listening to what they're saying, you're interrupting them, you're not giving them an opportunity to engage in a way that they're most comfortable. I think that that's more of what I use now than necessarily the language skills.
So I've been working on my German for 20 years. My wife is a German. We watch German Cops. Very different than American Cops.
It's very important.
I work for a German, and every time that I went over there, every time that I go over there now, they don't actually want to speak German. They want to speak English because for them, they want to know my intonations, my specific pronunciations of words, my specific phrases, so that they can pick up on that and they become a little bit more Americanized, or I guess more worldly, more business-like. I now have a team where I have people from Portugal, people from Brazil, people from Mexico, and I asked them all, I said, do you guys want me to learn Spanish or Portuguese? And they all laughed at me. They said, no. we just want you to get to know us more than anything else. We want you to be interested in our culture. And from the Germans, that's more what I found than actually speaking German. The more that I actually want to know about who they are and what they're doing and what their goals are versus actually speaking German, that's more the thing for them.
I think it's interesting that we've pointed out that there are multiple aspects of learning a language. There's the grammar and the vocabulary, and then the's the cultural piece.
Right.
Rocio, you speak what, 4 languages? 5 languages,
No,
maybe? 4, okay, be modest. What?
I was a Peace Corps volunteer. I got 2 for the price of 0, 2 years.
But from your perspective, being that you are fluent and proficient in multiple languages, what's your take on this?
I mean, I definitely do not get to practice any of the languages as often. I mean, maybe when I call my parents in Spanish, that's probably the most. No, but I'm actually working on a deal now in Mexico, and so it's been actually very helpful. I don't get to speak French or Wolof, which is one of the languages spoken in Senegal. But what has helped me and how the languages have helped me is that whenever I'm in Africa or whenever I'm in Latin America or wherever, if I just mention I speak these languages to somebody, there's an extra connection between us because they kind of just tell me, oh, well, it shows that I took the time to at least try to learn something else, to understand something. It may not necessarily be the same language that we speak, but it shows that you went above and beyond.
Great, good.
The American thing you really have to watch.
Yeah,
You do.
It's a very big thing.
It is a very big thing.
It really is.
Which you wouldn't have picked up on had you not gone out of your way to study another language and its culture, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So not unrelated to that is the idea of global diversity. So here at the University of Maryland, this is the year that we are celebrating the year of immigration. And through our Central Office of International Affairs, there are a series of events, readings, lectures, that sort of thing. So related to global diversity, related to language and global diversity, how is it that each of your companies, each of your organizations is defining global diversity, and how is that being valued? How are you seeing that in the workplace?
So there's a couple different things. Let me break it apart for you.
Okay.
What we really value and what we really, really push is the diversity of ideas. So you may come from a different place, you may come from a different culture, you may come from a different background. Your diversity of ideas is really what we try and focus on. Each region, each country has their own specific diversity goals around gender and race and all the other pieces that we look for. But the primary goal for SAP is diversity of ideas. And for us, it's huge because if we don't get a set of diverse ideas, our products stop growing and innovating. I don't know everything. I'm not supposed to know everything. People on my team know way more than I do at this point. And that's great because that's what they need to bring to the table. They need to bring their ideas, their different thoughts, their different business processes. How business works in Portugal, I have no idea. I've never seen it. I've never done it. But that's okay because as I have somebody who's from that area and can help me and can guide me in the right way so I can build a system or guide a system or create an education plan for that particular local area. But that's kind of what we focus on.
That's great. That's almost the foundational definition of global mindset, right? Is valuing this diversity of ideas around the table. Rashida, can you talk a little bit about how you might see global diversity defined differently in Kenya, for example?
Yes, and so I will say, while I value the difference of ideas, our company is very intentional about women and people of color, especially as it relates to international development and some of the work that we do, because the numbers are just what they are and they're not enough. And so for us, it is very important that we have more women, people of color, as far as we can, as far as we can get them in front of our clients and suggesting to our clients, how they can diversify their teams, just because it hasn't been. I think you have to be intentional. I think you have to be. I just in the last 15 years have been one of the only people of color in international development tables constantly, and it's just, it doesn't work for me. So that's all I'll say on that. But to your other question, in terms of Kenya, Kenya is interesting because it's almost like New York, the New York of East Africa. It's super. The infrastructure is great, water is great. Most people speak English. It's very British Western style in terms of dress and clothing. So I think that that was sort of an easy landing part for us. I mean, my business partner is Kenyan, so there is a reason why we're in Kenya, but it's also that we were able to get, as a small business, enough of the infrastructure and internet and banking and everything was easy for us to be able to start up, and things were straightforward in terms of taxes and some of the things that I think as a smaller business it can be really daunting to try and do work overseas if you don't have something that is able to get you easy access. The one thing I will say, having worked at the Department of Commerce, the U.S. Department of Commerce has offices throughout the world, and for U.S. businesses, it can be quite useful to use that service. It's mostly free, and they will help you try and navigate any sort of challenges that you have on the ground. Our office there is mostly women, but it is run by my business partner, James Wogala, and we split. Probably half our clients are American donors or businesses, and then half of them are European and African foundations and family foundations.
Okay. So, again, multiple ways to view what diversity is, right? Also related to this idea of global mindset, and our foundation and our definition here at the Smith School is that having a global mindset in and of itself isn't quite enough. You also need to be firmly grounded in an awareness and understanding of world events. So last week, and I think most of the students in the audience were with us last week, we were lucky enough to have Eric Peterson of A.T. Kearney here on this very stage, talking about the economic outlook for 2019 and beyond. And I think the report that he was referencing last week was called On Thin Ice. And he talked a lot about a number of trends, some of which were worrisome. And I'd like to get your thoughts on those from the perspective of being a professional in global business, and then perhaps your perspective from within your industries. So I'll mention just three things that he talked about. First being the fragmentation of the international order, a focus on what he referred to as multi-localism, or a preference for local communities, local industries, products, cultures, that sort of thing. The second thing that he talked about was the islandization of the global economy. So this emergence, if you will, of nationalist and protectionist policies, specifically related to trade and immigration even. And finally, he talked about the unraveling of the global trade system, including some threats to traditional international organizations like the WTO, World Bank, IMF. So a little bit of a stark picture last week. So I hope that maybe from your perspectives, maybe you can help us turn some things around. Rocio, I think you're up.
I mean, has anybody heard of Brexit? March 29th is definitely in my calendar. It is a thing. One of our major offices is actually, we have two major offices in the UK, one in London, one in Apsley. Our strategy, our world in international development, I should start with that. It's quite difficult. I mean, it's based on foreign aid from various governments and donors, and some commercial, of course, but mostly governments. So that's always a challenge. We always have to be. We have our theories on different administrations. Believe it or not, it's not what you probably think. It's actually the opposite. I'm not going to go into detail on that, but. It is a challenge. It's something that we think about very often, but trying to tackle that issue, we try to act very local. We have various hubs around the world where we are DAI local. We're DAI Nigeria, we're DAI Kenya, we're DAI South Africa. We are not DAI US all of the time. So we take a local twist into it, but it is a challenge, and I hope that things will work out on March 29th.
Venezuela is a huge
Yeah.
thorn in my side. So my purview is South America right now. North America and Canada, obviously, they're pretty stable for now. Let's give it a few weeks. But the opportunities for us for growth are huge in South America, which is why I now have this particular area in my purview. We have to watch out and watch the news every single day, figure out exactly what's going on, who we can contact and what we can contact them about. There are areas that we can reach out to and go to that I can't put people in any longer. There are some areas where I have to assign bodyguards to people, to consultants going out into the world in Brazil and Bogota and Venezuela, but they still need to go out and deliver their stuff. So there's a lot of different things that you have to look at from an international perspective when you're watching. As Americans, we're very shielded. We don't get to see a whole lot of it, so you have to go out and look for it. Brexit is huge for us as well, because we have a lot of business, obviously, in Britain, and it manages, once they figure out what's going on with the EU, if the EU breaks up, it's huge for everybody.
Right.
It's a big, gigantic thing. But it's something you have to be very focused on if that's your area of expertise, or that you want that to be your area of expertise. And you actually, it's better if you can go there, from what I found. Because if you go and you talk to the local people versus, just watch it on the news, there's a hugely different story. A lot of people will still think that it's day by day, and they're still living their life. They don't really care. Just like, to be honest, us with what's happening in our government. If it shuts down, who knows? I'm still living my life. I still have to pay my bills. I still have to do my business. I still have to do my stuff. My kids are still going to go to school. And that everybody else is the same way. So if you look at it from that perspective, we're all pretty much the same. But things are happening around us that we all have to react to and adjust to. And for us, it's huge. It's a big thing that I literally have to forecast for that area on a week-by-week basis. I can't do quarterly forecasts. So it's a big thing. Sorry.
Rashida, how are you responding from 1847?
Well, I check Twitter. Like that's the first thing I do in the morning, actually. And the reason I do that is because I follow different people in the different countries in which we are, and it actually gives me more of an idea than watching the news as to what's going on locally. And then WhatsApp groups are my second go-to, because I'm on like 5 or 6 that are Africa-based, and so I will have gotten up and there'll be like 50 messages, like if something's happening, right? So I'll know that, I knew that the coup in Gabon was happening like at 3 a.m. before like it was hitting the TV, because I had it on I have my WhatsApp group, and they're like, they're outside, and I'm like, ah. And the other thing that was super scary that happened, that again I was like trying to find and manage via WhatsApp, was the terrorist attack in Nairobi a couple of weeks ago. My business partner was missing for 2 hours. I had another colleague who was stuck in the hotel until 3 a.m. We had another person that was not part of our company, but we had a contract with that ended up getting killed. So, things like that. The risks are really real. I mean, I don't even know, that whole day was shot for me because I was like looking for people, trying to get on the phone. No one was like answering the phones. Everything was locked down. And then you're kind of helpless here in the US, like, what are you going to do? And, unfortunately, we're not connected. A lot of our folks aren't American. So it's not like I could call the embassy and be like, hey, me go get my business partner. So yeah, it's like a real thing of like what's happening in different countries and how that affects business and how that delays sometimes certain things that may be happening. We had to tell one of our investors that, hey, like, so there's this thing happening in Kenya right now, so we're going to be offline for 3 days. They were like, what? I'm like, yeah, just check the news and we'll get back to you in 3 days. So, I think that we've had to put in different types of backup systems. We have a couple people in Canada. We try and diversify as much as possible so we can still get things done. But I think the safety concerns are real, especially when you're a private company. There's really, you can try and do the best that you can. We have security in our offices in Nairobi,
right.
But at the end of the day, it's one of those things where when you're working abroad, it's just a different level of risk and trying to figure out how you can try and protect your people as best as possible.
Yeah.
We have buttons on our phones, so if something happens where you are, you have to press the button and let everybody know you're alive, or else you're going to get phone calls. Because it's scary, because stuff happens.
Yeah.
People
Right.
go missing.
Right.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'm also hearing is this idea of diversifying your news sources as well. So being able to look outside of regular networks here in the U.S., using social media, perhaps it's not always bad, to connect with local resources to understand a different perspective on world events. How many of you in the audience today are actually doing that, diversifying where you're getting your news from, not just U.S. focused? Are any of you getting news from BBC, for example, or other? A couple of you, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, a couple of you in the back too. That's great. I do think
good.
that's something that what I'm understanding is a recommendation.
Yeah,
for
absolutely. Just
for
follow
students.
on Twitter.
Yeah,
You'll get all the good stuff.
Are you all on Twitter? Is that still cool? A couple of head shakes. Okay.
Notice I did not say Facebook.
Thank you. But they do have that check if you're safe, right?
Yeah,
Right,
that's
exactly.
helpful. That's helpful. Yeah.
So referring again to Eric Peterson's work in this On Thin Ice report, one of the other things that comes out in that report is predictions for world regions. So he mentioned specifically that an area to watch is Asia in terms of growth, given that India has the world's fastest growing economy. His prediction for China, not quite as strong. But in what world regions, and Rosia, if we can start with you. So I understand DAI works in 150 countries around there. Okay. So given that experience and that perspective, where do you think U.S. businesses have the most opportunity today and maybe in the next couple of years?
I cannot speak for all U.S. businesses, but I can speak for businesses in the international development field, and that's going to be Africa for us. It's Africa and the Middle East. Pakistan is very important to us. It's actually one of we have a hub there, another very important office for us. Again, I'm going to tie that to security. A lot of countries that are not 100%, stable all of the time. But for us, it continues to be Africa, West Africa, very important. We have some trade stuff going on in South Africa, and of course, Sub-Saharan Africa. Ethiopia and Kenya, very important markets for us.
Okay. Rashida.
Well, I work mostly in Africa, so
I
I feel
know.
like
Go back to your ITA roots.
Okay,
What's your
so
prediction?
if I'm looking from the perspective of Export Trade Administration, I think, I think it's actually more from a trade perspective, and from what I've seen, just having going to conferences and things like that. I actually see the role of the U.S. somewhat diminishing in the global space, and yes, and if you listen to some of the administration now, you'll hear, with their Africa strategy as an example, there's a link with China and Africa. If you look at Europe, there's a link with what's happening with migration from Africa to Europe, and that was a big
thing.
It is.
thing in terms of Brexit and other things. so I found it interesting when you're looking at like just the kind of the role of the U.S. and the role of what is to come in terms of and what that does to U.S. businesses, because I mean even looking at it from an aid perspective, right? Like, what are the opportunities? Where's the revenue going to come from? How do you diversify your staff so that you're not having to let go of a third of your staff because of a change in revenue projections, or something happens in Europe or something, and like then you're missing a portion of your projections. So I think for me that has been the most interesting, is to watch what the role of the U.S. is going to be in the future, and how that is continuing to change, and how that plays into cultural competency and understanding different people's perspectives. And I go back to the whole American style of business, but that's a real thing. So right now, yes, it is dominant in terms of you can pretty much be an American businessman anywhere in the world and still get the meetings you need, and still go in and be able to get the financing that you need, and all of these things. Will that be the case in 15 to 20 years?
No.
I really wonder about that.
Your question was very interesting because you focused it from a U.S. perspective. If you can't, I don't know how people will continue to do business from the U.S. perspective. But if you look at it from a global perspective, it's a different thing. The American thing that we all talk the same way, we all work the same way, we all have the same perspectives. That's going away very quickly because it's becoming kind of gray. Everybody has a set of ideas of where they're coming from, and the Americans. I'm not saying this is it's bad to be an American, but it's not as awesome as it used to be. No, so if you look at it from a very global mindset, and that's kind of why we're here, it's a better thing. It's a better thing for, don't worry about where you're coming from with your particular set of business. Make sure that your business is able to go across the world. If I look at my, top 200 accounts, probably a lot of them are based in the U.S., but most of them are international.
Right.
Absolutely international, because they can't do just business in the United States because everyone's afraid. It's going to slowly decline. It might be awesome for the next 20, 30 years, but after that it's going to kind of fade away. China is taking over, India is taking over, and that's where we're at. And we have to be able to compete, and we have to be able to work with them very, very closely.
Yep. In this changing landscape, it is going to be very important to have this global mindset and be able to cross borders.
Yeah.
Right. So that's all I'll do with the panel for now, and I'd like to open it up to our audience for questions. There are 2 standing mics, so if you have a question, I invite you to one of the standing mics to first introduce yourself and then ask your question. Okay.
Kisle Prasad, the Academic Director for the Center for Global Business. So all 3 of you studied here, 2 of you studied international business. And after successful careers in international business, can you think of one thing that we did right in our classes and one thing you think we got wrong so we could have done better, preparing you for the experiences that you have?
I'll tell you, it's very easy for me. You guys kept on telling me, by you I mean professors, kept on telling me, Rashida, you always have to ask not only why, but also challenge the status quo and keep on learning. You guys push me to do that a lot, and that has helped me today. When I compare myself, not that, or other UMDs alum, I know that it's that they all come with that kind of mindset from the Smith School. So you guys really did a great job. Also, English was really good. I had the best professor because she was so strict in my English class. But honestly, grammar and being able to write good emails is key. And so maybe those 2 things. So thank you for that.
And what could we have done better?
Done better. Well, I mean, the world changes, so I think I think these guys have a lot more, speakers than we used to back in the early 2000s. I'm dating myself here. So I think you guys have continued to improve for sure. Or Jason.
So for me, I got lucky because I was decision and information, not international business. So I was big data before it was big data, which from an analytical perspective helped me immensely. Had I known that that was a thing, I would have probably gone into big data.
Me too. I would have studied statistics along with
But like you said, I don't think that we had these series when I was here. I don't believe it was a thing.
I don't think so. So let's see. I think my favorite classes, well, I think the Smith School tried to professionalize us, which I appreciated. I felt like when I got internships and when I went to work, I felt like I actually wasn't pretending. Like I kind of felt like I should be there. I was like, yes, no, this sounds about right. I was also in Hinman, so we were kind of forced to have a different, very entrepreneurship mindset, and we had a different structure of programs and things like that. So I felt like my transition was really easy coming out of the Smith School. And I really, really, really liked my professors my junior and senior year. I felt like I was almost like an adult. Like I really felt like I was matured quite a bit from my freshman and sophomore years. And then my junior and senior years, my junior year, I had started doing an internship, and I was like, oh, okay, I can actually work. Like this is like,
works, yeah.
This is all right. Like I guess I could do a career in this. This is gonna work out. I think one of the things that I've been super impressed, just coming back, has been the trying to incorporate more outside influence. I do feel like we were in a little bit of a bubble in the late 90s and 2000s, early 2000s. DC was right there, but we never really connected.
That's true.
With DC, or there really wasn't any larger connection, which was good in terms of trying to stay safe and all of that. But yeah, I just think given that it's right there, and a lot of people from the Smith School end up going and working in the district or other places in this area, it would have been interesting to have more of a way for students and alumni. I understand that you have I guess a facility in the Ronald Reagan building now. Mm-hmm. So there's so many things. There's a Chick-fil-A here. I mean, there's so many things that have changed. So yeah, I think you're already doing probably what would have been some of our suggestions. Yeah. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yes.
And just to jump on the professionalism thing, so when I went through, we had interviews, interview questions, interview classes, resume classes. I measure people that way when I'm hiring.
Yeah.
It's a huge thing, because if you're going to come into to work for me and I'm going to put you in front of a client, you need to be respectful, you need to be present yourself well, you need to speak okay. That doesn't have to be awesome, but you at least have to be able to present yourself in a nice, gracious way. And this school did a great job doing that.
Yeah, great. Yeah, good. Any other questions?
All y'all
Come
didn't
on.
come in here.
Okay. Hi, I'm Nicole Dial, EMBA cohort 18. And my question, and I apologize, got here a little bit late, so hopefully you didn't already cover this. But as global leaders, I would like to know, as you have younger folks coming in now to work for you in the global or international environment, what are some of the main skills or competencies that you find are most lacking, and what sort of programs do you have in place to help develop those on the spot to get people up to speed quickly?
So we have a professionalism class that we teach internally at SAP. We have this woman her name is Roz. If you come in, you may be extremely, extremely smart, but not put together at all. Roz will put you together. And that's what we find. We find a lot of that is missing right now. And it's not that, you're not teaching that. It's just that people aren't as polished as we need them to be. And that's the biggest area that we find. Generally, the intelligence is always there. Generally, the sociability is there. Generally, you know more about being social than I do, to be very honest. It's really, can you get up and speak in front of 5,000 people and be confident doing it? And can you look professional doing it? And that's what we miss a lot coming in.
I would add that it's really goes back to what I said before about that writing. I do find a lot of, especially the younger generation, sending me emails with, "Hey, do you do this?" or "Hey, what's up with this?" I'm like, no, that is not the etiquette of the workplace. So business writing is really important, even to this day for me, and I think we're working on it.
That's a really big thing, especially when communicating with people abroad.
Oh yeah.
Because you have to know that sometimes people are not as casual, and so a lot of our clients like full titles, even in emails, and like almost like letter style. So what we do is we have a Dropbox, and we have templates in there. And we try, we're small, so we're trying to figure out for our East African colleagues what to do. We're thinking we might outsource it because we've had some hiccups up and down with quality of staff. And so we're trying to actually figure that out right now. But yes, written communication is probably one of the things that I'm always like, no, that went out without like someone seeing it. And just can't catch everything. So yeah.
So it sounds like from the writing, you're talking about not just grammar, but also organizational culture and national culture, being able to adapt to whoever the recipient might be. Yeah, great. Other questions?
You guys are awfully silent.
Oh,
there we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Devin. I'm a junior marketing and management major, and I guess my question would be, with all the trends that are going on globally, with protectionism or localism or whatever it might be, I think something that sometimes gets left behind and is important to me is sustainability. And I know in A.T. Kearney's, their report, they talked about climate change is going to be a big factor in the next couple of years. So when you guys are focusing on expanding and going into these new markets, how do you kind of still keep sustainability in the back of your mind and a focus when other companies or people might not?
Great. It's a really good question.
It is.
So for us, we don't implement. So our model is really with sustainability built into it, because our model on the consulting side is to support indigenous local organizations that are already on the ground to be able to do what they are doing. So we will go in and do program management, software rollouts. We'll go in and do monitoring and evaluation. We'll go in and do, other things that may be needed, even bring in additional resources for them. But our goal is to support indigenous communities and local communities that pretty much already know, how to manage in their own environment. And sometimes it's the external forces that are actually kind of, disrupting some of those environments. And so that's really our goal, is to get in, sort of try and empower as well as improve capacity and efficiencies, and then get out. And so not to have a large footprint eventually.
Yeah, similarly, we're measured by, especially one of our largest client, USAID, the U.S. government. They measure us, and we're supposed to, show that our results go beyond the time that we spend in country. So if a particular project is for 4 years, we need to show that there is some progression, that we made a real impact in the country or whatever in the sector that we're working in.
So for us, sustainability is lots of different things. From a facilities perspective, our goal is to be carbon neutral by the end of the year. We try and have, I think our workforce is about 70%, out of 90,000 people, about 70% work from home. We don't have an office space for them. And we don't ever want to have an office space for them. I had an office in the Reagan building for 20 years or 10 years that I never ever went to. Because I was always at a client. It is something that is, obviously we're a German company. It is inside their DNA to be very much focused on the environment and very much focused on sustainability. And for us, it's not just the resources or the physical resources, it's also the people resources. So as I go and I expand business in a certain country, my job is really to take people who are experts in their field, go into that country with them, and teach somebody there to be able to do things. And the reason for that is so that, number one, we have additional people who can do things. Number two, it's good for the local country. And it's also good for those people specifically because it helps them come up with a career long term. And we've been doing this for a number of years with people who are underemployed from Spain, and putting them into various locations because if you have somebody who's got an engineering degree in Spain, generally they're out driving taxis because that's where the economy is. But you can put them into better locations and better jobs as long as you figure out where to do. So there's a lot of different things from a sustainability perspective that you need to think about, not just from a climate perspective, because we're doing all those things and we have to do all those things.
Great. Is there another question from the audience? There might be.
Hi, I'm Madison. I'm a senior studying operations, analytics, and international business. Post-grad, I'm going to work for a footwear company that really focuses on the U.S. market. And so I was just wondering if you have any tips on how to get onto the more international teams. That's it.
Maybe you can answer that.
I can tell you my path, and that's basically become the absolute expert at what you do. And because of that, you'll then be pulled out.
Yeah.
You won't necessarily have to push yourself out there. People will pull you out to the international teams.
Right. And just talk out loud and just say, I'm interested in this.
Yeah,
Don't be shy,
absolutely.
honestly. I always say, hey, I'm interested in this. And before I know it, I'm already working in something that I really find interesting. So people are really open, if you show interest in whatever it is that you're interested in.
And then last thing I would say, all those things are good. Tie yourself to revenue. So if you do that, then once they want to expand revenue with other, accessing other countries, you'll be like, hey, I can do that, and then send you.
Great. Last question, please.
Hi, my name is Hayan. I'm international business major and accounting major. So I was wondering, since you guys are all from Smith School, is there any advice that you wish that you did as a student, and you wish to tell us as a student, to the rest of us?
I wish there had been an analytics program when I was here. I would have majored in analytics, like you, I think.
I would just say take all the opportunities that are offered to you. I mean, I think it's really great that you guys come to an event after school, and I'm sure people have other things to do, and I think that the more opportunities that you can take advantage of, you'll be more prepared when you get into when you graduate, and you can say, oh well, you know, in your interviews, they're like, oh, well, I had that experience where I was talking to, you know, these CEOs and I was able to say X, Y, and Z, or, you know, I think that that gives you something to pull on that may differentiate you from other candidates or other folks in your office.
Put yourself out of your comfort zone constantly.
Yeah, absolutely,
Really,
yeah.
like I mean it. Just try it and learn new things. Any opportunity you get, especially while you're here, honestly, sign up for as many things as you can handle. Challenge yourself.
So I'll tell you what, my son is a sophomore here. Go out and talk to every single person you could possibly talk to.
Yeah.
The more that you get used to being uncomfortable in a situation, the more comfortable it becomes. So if you go out and you start to talk to anybody, doesn't matter who they are, just go up and say hi. You'll be more comfortable when you get into a business situation. And I also, this is probably not super awesome to say, but I always tell my son to go out to parties and go talk to people. And
No, that's not super awesome to say.
so, because it's more sales. You basically, you teach yourself how to do sales by going out and being social and trying, not necessarily to persuade somebody to do something, but just talking to them. Just, you know, you may want to influence them with your particular point of view, and you have to figure out how to present that information properly. And a social party situation is the best solution because somebody will smack you upside the head if you say something wrong.
Course correct immediately.
Exactly right.
And just to answer that as well, pulling out a couple of other things that you've said already or said earlier in the panel related to specifically how you're going to develop your global mindset. I heard you talk about getting out there, getting abroad, perhaps studying abroad, studying culture, and really developing, diversifying where you're getting your news sources from, right?
Yes.
All right, so Rocio, Jason, Rashida, welcome back to Van Munching Hall. It's been a real pleasure to share the stage with you this evening. Thank you so much for being
Thank you,
on the
everyone.
panel and for being so engaged with the school post-graduation as alumni. So I do have a small gift for you, but before I get that out, please join me in thanking them one more time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.